Right, should we go on into the actual episode?
Yes, let's do it. This might, well, I don't know if this will jinx it, but this could be the first one that's actually quite a short episode.
Brilliant.
Or it might not be. We don't know. Let's find out. Right. Nidorina. Tom, have you got any hot takes, fond memories, um, intrusive questions about Nidorina?
Okay, so my first one is that I feel like Nidorina does not really have a horn. I feel like at most they've got a lump on their head. Um,
Nidorina doesn't have a horn. Like,
well,
why?
well, exactly,
Why
exactly.
is that?
Where's the horn gone? What as comedians would have said in the 90s? What's all that about? Um,
Okay, look, I feel like that's a really weird thing to take offense at. Like,
I just think you know.
where did like like I feel like we've had this conversation before about horns not being where you think they are on Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Eggs, egg, bloody exactly. Um, I just, I feel like, right, we did the previous episode on Nidoran female and Nidoran male, and I was like, I didn't really know it had a horn. I assumed that the horn was the back of an ear, etc., etc. Right? If you wanna, if you wanna hear my thoughts on that in more detail, you can listen to the previous episode. There you go, a little reason to go back, right? But but the thing is, I accepted it had a horn, and now I've come onto its evolution, and where'd that horn go?
I
And
don't know.
as a genuine thing, right, like I feel like for equality, it should have kept it.
So what you're saying is Nidorino and Nidorina should be exactly the same.
Not exactly the same, but it's like keep the horn, like give it like a badass. If anything, make it like a Black Widow. Make it like, right, this is the female version. You'd think that Nidorino would get the big one, but actually, it's like Nidorina is the absolute badass.
Yeah, we've already established in the last one that the depth of subversion of like gender stereotypes is that the boy one is pink. That is it. That is the whole difference. And the rest of it, they have fully fallen into every pitfall of making a gendered thing. Like, we established that on the last two episodes. I'm sure it is also going to be the bulk of this one, but I feel like we're going to get to more egregious instances of it when we get to the Pokedex entries.
Mm.
I feel like ranting for an hour about horns is not going to do anyone any good and make you look like a bit of a nutcase.
Oh, you say that as if anyone who looks at any of my work output for like the last 5 years would not assume so. Um, but but yeah, so that's my main thing about Nidorina. Um, I feel like nobody's keeping a Nidorina when instead of a Nidoqueen. Um,
No, of course not. Like, no one's doing that with any middle evolution Pokemon.
mm,
Um, I feel like, yeah, the main bits of information that I like, I feel like Nidorina is quite an underutilized Pokemon. They appear in like the background of the show a little bit. That like obviously there's the one where like the Nidorans that are in love evolve into their evolved forms, but they're only in the
yeah.
episode for like 3 seconds and then they all live happily ever after. So I don't know how much that really uh is important for this particular Pokemon as
Mm.
opposed to the previous evolutions. Um, if I remember rightly, I think Whitney has one in the Johto season, not in the game, just in the show. But it's not that memorable. It's not as memorable as her Miltank from the games.
Yeah, like that for me is the two. Like I remember Whitney's Mill Tank, and I want to say they also have um a Sentret.
Yeah, something like that. Because like in the, and I think the reason I remember this is that in the games, Whitney, um, Whitney is a normal type gym leader, and I think it confused me because Nidorina is not a normal type Pokemon.
Oh,
So I was like, why does Whitney have this? It's poison type. Like, oh well.
mm. Um, I feel like slightly more so. Nidorina versus Nidorino looks like the middle stage of Nidoran female to Nidoqueen. Like it almost feels like they probably came up with it as like a
It's just a
they
stepping
probably
stone
yeah they
from
probably
like they had the Nidoran idea, they had the Nidoqueen idea, they need something to go in the middle.
yeah
And I think that's not unusual. That is largely the same for most middle evolutions.
mm,
Like even now that I think they are getting a bit more thoughtful about that sort of thing, middle evolutions are still massively underappreciated or like underutilized in terms of the fun things they could do with them. I would like to see more Pokemon in general where there is an incentive to leave it as a middle evolution. And I do actually think Nidorina is one of the few where there's a bit of an incentive, just not enough of one, because, and this is the same for Nidorino, but Nidorina comes first in the Pokedex, so I'll bring it up now. Um, by gaining the secondary ground type of Nidoqueen and Nidoking, Nidorina and Nidorino don't gain anything that they're super effective against, but they do have more things that are super effective against them.
mm,
So, in that respect, they are opening themselves up to more weaknesses. So, if you wanted a poison type, you're better off not evolving your Nidorina into a Nidoqueen because, like, ground doesn't actually really give them that many additional advantages compared to the weaknesses it
mm,
introduces for them. Um, but then like it still has like better stats and all of the other benefits of come it being a final evolution. Like, eh. Johnny has pointed out that stone evolutions in Generation 1 tend not to learn any or many new moves via level up once evolved. So there is an argument to keep them in their middle form for move pool. I think that was done on purpose so that you don't just like immediately evolve it at level 16 again.
mm,
Um, and I think they kind of like made it a bit less imbalanced as the games went on and they introduced like new moves and put more thought into how stone evolutions were going to work, what was going to be the benefit of keeping it around for a little bit.
mm,
And obviously, if we're talking about Gen 1, the downside of it becoming dual type with ground wasn't even an issue until later on because they didn't have dual types in Gen 1. If you're playing red, yellow, or blue, may as well evolve it because um,
yeah.
you're not getting the weaknesses.
Yeah, because really you're gonna get the opportunity to get this as early as Mount Moon, because
Yeah.
in Gen 1 you can pick up Nidoran male or Nidoran female depending on which version you've got, and then you will pick up a Moonstone, and at that point you're probably maybe only, because you're only post Brock, you're probably only going to be around about 16, 17 at this point. um, so maybe it was done as a bit of a mechanic to
Yeah.
around those moves and make you go, oh, actually, if I hang on to these, because I don't know about yourself, but I sometimes over level my Pokemon. Sometimes I'll stick Everstones on stuff so I get access to moves earlier. Like I'm sure that I want to say like most of my starters, I'll over level until I get something decent around about level 30 or 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I tend to let them evolve as soon as they're ready. there are a part unless it's a because like they normally get the move sooner or later anyway. Like it's only a handful of Pokemon that don't get a good move at all if you evolve them.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't really see a downside in like waiting the extra couple of levels usually. Um, yeah, like some of them, which I will save for the episodes in which we focus on those Pokemon, can be quite interesting in terms of like which moves they've left until later. But yeah, um, this is not one.
Yeah. Oh
This is
yeah.
not one.
Yeah, nidorina is definitely not one that I would consider. But like I say, for things like the starters, I will generally over level it until it starts getting tanked out by whatever it is that it's fighting. You know, enough times that I start going, okay, well, I better I'd let this evolve now. You know, in order for the stats to get boosted. Yeah.
Fair.
But yeah, I do. I feel like this feels like a full 3 stage that they developed altogether. Unlike what we discovered with Blastoise, where they kind of swapped it out, because it does feel like
Yeah.
the middle point. One other thing, I don't know why, but I've felt like this for a long time. Nidorina particularly like reminds me of like a teenager.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I think I think the design of Nidorina, like it's kind of chubby, so it's still got a bit of like baby puppy fat. And I don't know if this is just me, but the shape of the ears gives me like a kind of pigtail vibe.
Hmm?
Do you know what I mean? When little girls have that like high pigtail
Yeah.
that comes up here,
Yeah.
that's like the like I feel like you get little cartoon girls that they do exaggerated pigtails in that same sort of shape. Not in real life, of course, but in the um yeah, just in cartoons.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if like I feel like I'm probably just reading into this. I almost get the like because it's I want to say, does it have like segments in its like underbelly?
E I don't think so.
Uh,
Not the arena.
maybe I've imagined them, but I almost view it as like a bit of like a band T-shirt, like. But obviously I've just imagined that. Um, so
It's got
yes,
like a slightly paler belly than it does its back, but
uh,
that's it. There's nothing terribly interesting about it.
well, and that was the end of the Nidorina episode.
No, we've got Pokedex entries to go, and then
uh,
we'll find out how useless it is in battle
yeah,
competitively.
but yeah, that's the I feel like I've had one. I've probably evolved it quite quickly just to get a Nidoqueen on my decks.
Yeah,
Uh,
same.
Because the thing is, I'm not actually that keen on either Nidoqueen or Nidoking. I want to say, like, is the general consensus that like Nidoqueen's better?
Don't know.
But yeah, it feels like,
We'll find out by next week when we have to have that
yeah.
conversation.
But yeah, I feel like Nidorina is probably the better one to keep. But yeah, so that's uh, it's in the anime for like 3 seconds. And
It's in 3 seconds of anime, and yet we've been talking for 44
yeah,
minutes.
it is. Remember when we said, "Oh, this one will be a nice and easy one," but yeah, it's in the anime for 3 seconds, and it's probably in my Pokedex for 3 seconds because I immediately use a Moonstone on it and then fuck it off.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I feel like I would like an excuse to hang on to a Nidorina for longer than I usually do, but there just isn't one.
No,
Like, yeah.
right. Shall we have a look? We got Johnny's put I definitely use Nidoran male line more as I preferred its moveset, but neither are particularly good or stand out from the rest of the Pokemon available at that point in the game.
Correct.
So, shall we have a look at the Dex entries?
Let's do it. I
Right.
feel like you're gonna see the first one. You're gonna have a point of contention with that one.
Well, my first issue is right. There's a picture of it. There's the official artwork. To quote comedians in the 90s, "Where's that horn gone, yo? What's all that about?"
Yo.
I do like that's my.
I feel like, look, Nidorina is not the only second evolution that has had like part of its former being absorbed into its body. Like this is like not unusual, and if you're going to be upset about this, then you're going to struggle as we continue.
You know that you could say that about many aspects of my life. To be honest with you, Kirsty, mate.
Yes.
Uh,
And how's that going for you?
oh God. Oh my God. Let's keep it on the Pokemon. Otherwise, this will take a depressing note. But yeah, I just like I said, I just want a badass female middle evolution monster, and they had the opportunity to do that with us, and that's my issue there. Right, so we got the Pokedex entries. So we've got right. I'm already annoyed.
That's what I said. I said you was gonna be.
Right. Red and blue. The female's horn develops slowly. Prefers physical attacks such as clawing and biting.
So this is one of those ones where, like, I've heard stories about like the Pokemon developers being like, you have to put a tail on that Pokemon. I've programmed it to have tail whip, and so they've had to redesign it. I noticed they didn't do that with the Pokedex entries, where they could have said, you have to put a horn on that Pokemon. I've written it as it's got a horn. But it could have been like, well, we haven't drawn a horn. Say its horn develops slowly so that, like, we can say, well, the one in the picture is just a bit underdeveloped. Its horn is still slowly growing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've not looked at any Nidoqueen artwork this week, and I feel like Nidoqueen probably does not have a horn. It feels like it doesn't have a horn. Is that gonna go? Is that gonna go?
I feel like yellow is actually shining some light on this, because the yellow one says, when resting deep in its burrow, its thorns always retract. This is proof that it is relaxed. So maybe this is just a relaxed Nidorina with all of its spikes kind of at rest.
I hope so. I also like the fact it uses burrow, connecting to its rabbit tendencies.
Yeah. And creating a sense of its natural habitat. Then we got Wildcard Stadium Professor coming in.
Love him.
The female is usually docile. However, if it becomes enraged, it will attack wildly with bites and scratches. And again, we have to ask, what is Stadium Professor doing to these fucking Pokemon?
Yeah.
Like,
my love for you has diminished.
I feel I quite like gold. I quite like gold because it gives more context of Nidorina in the wild and in its community. When feeding its young, it first chews and tenderizes the food, then spits it out for the offspring. Now, first off, that's gross. And while I like it, I'm also concerned because I'm pretty sure Nidoran, the female Nidoran, a lot of the Pokedex entries were banging on about how pointy its teeth were.
Yeah.
And if they've got such pointy teeth, like, is Nidorina just doing this for fun?
Yeah. Well, it is actually connected to real life, so that's quite common because a lot of young animals.
This isn't about real life. This is about internal logic, Tom.
Well, I suppose the issue that I have there then is that Nidorina can't breed as one of the mechanics. So what's it doing with young?
Well, it could have had it as a Nidoran and then evolved.
Yeah, I suppose
it's like, now I've got a child to take care of. I must be larger than the child, so I should hurry up and evolve.
But the issue that I have with that is you've put that in the decks, so just give it the ability to breed.
Yeah, I think based on I feel like it wasn't a choice based on that it shouldn't. It was a choice based on the limits of the mechanics they had available to them at the time of release. Now they should.
Yeah,
Um, but this was Generation 2 that they wrote this. I feel like by the time they reused this for Heart Gold, by then they should have added the mechanic in.
agreed.
But they didn't.
Yeah,
Um, Silver, I have mixed feelings about. It has a calm and caring nature because its horn grows slowly, it prefers not to fight. Now, I feel like this is the issue I thought we were going to uh face when it came to like the contrast between the two of them. I think this is going to be, oh, it's calm and caring and it looks after the young and it prefers not to fight. Whereas Nidorino is going to be, I would put money on it, is going to be like, oh, it's aggressive and it's a protector and it's doing
yeah,
that thing that we highlighted last time where it has fallen into all of the pitfalls of gendering a thing.
yeah.
Um,
And I keep on, I feel like I keep on mentioning it, but I feel like Neither Queen does not have a horn, and I feel like Neither King does have a horn. Give me my badass females with badass horns. Why can't I have that? Why can't I have that?
Well, Crystal reckons it has barbs if barbs will do for you. It has a docile nature. If it's threatened with attack, it raises the barbs that are all over its body, which again leans into what yellow is doing. So when it's threatened, it gets pointy and barby, and when it's relaxed, its thorns retract.
Barbs does not quell my want for a badass like female full of like horns and spikes. All Barbs makes me think of is genuinely my dinner lady when I was 5, who was called Auntie Barbs. That's all it makes me think of.
So Stadium 2 has just copied Gold's homework again. Ruby and Sapphire is quite cute. When Nidorina are with their friends or family, they keep their barbs tucked away to prevent hurting each other. This Pokemon appears to become nervous if separated from the others. I think that's cute.
Yeah,
But it is another one of these Pokedex entries where I'm like, how many Pokemon did you separate from their families to get this information? Is this statistically significant data, or did you do it to one Nidorina and assume that it was all of them? Also, why is this special to Nidorina? Surely, if like any Pokemon was abandoned on its own, it would be sad.
yeah. The Charmander episode speaks for itself, which was
Right?
already out at this point. Also, as we know from doing, this podcast, that a lot of the Ruby and Sapphire was potentially not going to have Gen 1 Pokemon in it, and but that for me is no excuse for the first female like evolution line with like only getting one entry between the two.
Well, we'll find out when we get to Nidorino if it's because they hate Nidorino.
I already feel like I'm going to be
Um,
fuming.
Emerald feels like just a variation on that. When it's with its family or friends, its barbs are tucked away to prevent injury. It appears to become nervous and separated from the others. So the same information in a different amount of words.
Oh,
Uh,
I already love Fire Red. I already love that.
I like Fire Red. The female has a gentle temperament. It emits ultrasonic cries that have the power to befuddle foes. I like this because it ties into how you might use Nidorina in battle. I like that it has that relationship with the game mechanic. Um,
I like the word befuddle.
befuddle, yeah.
Brilliant
um,
word.
Leaf green is the same as red, basically. Yeah, exactly the same. Um, all right, Diamond and Pearl and Platinum is quite an interesting one. When it senses danger, it raises all the barbs on its body. These barbs grow slower than Nidorino's. I think that's quite interesting.
It reminds me of
I
a
feel like I would
pufferfish.
like to know. I would like to know if any of these um professors have had done any like in-depth research into why Nidorina's like defensive features um grow slower than nidorinos. Like, I'd like to know if there's an actual reason physiologically for that they can point to.
Yeah.
Like, do male nidorinos have a chemical in them that makes them pink and pointy that nidorina doesn't have?
Mm.
Or does nidorina have a chemical that makes them blue and soft?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also like the idea of there being a Pokemon game where you play as a professor and there's like loads of mini games where you can
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
work stuff out and put it in the Pokedex.
I reckon that'd be a sick game.
Yeah.
Um, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the same as Gold and Silver.
Tell you what, on that
Black,
note,
white.
right, Nintendo, why aren't you hiring us to give you ideas? Secondly, do you remember that? Do you remember that Pokemon series that they brought out that rivaled ours? What happened to those
Oh
guys?
yeah. Don't remind people, Jesus. Black, White, and Black and White 2 are the same as Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Uh, X is the one we liked from Fire Red. Y is similar to what we've seen before. When feeding its young, it first chews the food into a paste, then spits it out for the offspring. So that's information we already had, but like doesn't clear up why this Pokemon needs to chew its food for a baby that has famously pointy teeth.
Yeah.
Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire have the same as Ruby and Sapphire. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee have the same as Yellow.
Yeah.
Right, right. Sword and Shield is answering some fucking questions.
Brilliant.
Sword. The horn on its head has atrophied. It's thought that this happens so that Nidorina's children won't get poked while their mother is feeding them. I like that.
Yeah.
That's answered a question for us.
Yeah.
You know what? I think Sword and Shield Professor is my fucking favorite.
Yeah. Well,
Like they consistently. I liked Sword and Shield on the last episode,
yeah.
and I think Sword and Shield is quite consistently kind of giving us more context of like what this Pokemon is like in the wild, like
Mm.
what, yeah, like what its community is like. It's not just about battling, but it also does give you interesting glimpses into how the backstory fits into the game mechanic.
Yeah.
I also really like Shield.
Mm.
If the group is threatened, these Pokemon will band together to assault enemies with a chorus of ultrasonic waves. This makes me think that when we go to look at the Smogon info,
Yeah.
I think Nidorina is going to have a better special attack than Nidorino is.
Mm.
I think this is also leaning into Nidorina's positives and strengths. It's not just being like, yeah, get the boy one, it's stronger. It's being like, this is a skill this one has. Like, that isn't just a comparison to its male counterpart.
Mm.
I like the approach that Sword and Shield Professor has.
Yes. I mean, my previous favourite professor was Sun and Moon Professor, but you know, they've continually dropped the ball on this line.
Yeah, there's a lot of Pokemon that hasn't really been here. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have phoned it in again with the same one as Black, White, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there
I
we
feel
go.
like I feel like the focus on like feeding its young and its gentle temperament and all that other bullshit, caring nature, has very much fallen into some stereotypical pitfalls that I
Mm.
don't have a lot of time for. But I think Sword and Shield have turned it around
Mm.
for me.
Right. I'll tell you what. Let's go into the Smogon, and then see what we've got for that. Okay. There they are. I almost feel like their head looks so unhorn like. It almost looks like they've got like a Squirtle's head.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Um.
Um, I mean, it's still got spikes down its back, which I think is like probably where the idea it's got a horn comes from. Because Nidoran has a little one. Nido Queen definitely has spikes down her back, but I think she's got a much rounder head. But we'll come to that next time. And I feel like if they had kept it with a horn, it would have made sense. But oh well.
Yeah. Um,
I like her little sleeves.
yeah, like I say, like this for me feels like the logical middle point to getting a Nida Queen. Like even more so than I feel like with Nidorino, because you know they're like still on all fours, um, and you know Nida Queen and Nida King are both on their back legs. So yes, this feels like this was just kind of, I don't know, like I don't want to say like an afterthought, but it does feel like they went, okay, how do we get to the middle point versus with Nidorino,
Yeah.
where I feel like they went, okay, let's okay, so it's called Nidorino, so let's like make it a little bit like Rhino like. So we have got here. Sorry to say, special attack is the same as special defense.
Yeah, that's not. No, I didn't say it was going to be different here to the other stats that it has. I said it's going to be higher than Nidorino's.
Ah, yes. Yes, we shall keep an eye out for
Yeah.
that. Uh,
I also like that it has the rivalry ability, and I would like it if Nidorino had that too, because I think that could read as a reference to the rivalry between the trainers who didn't want their Nidorans to fall in love. I think that's quite cute.
yeah,
Um, and them having a like equivalent Pokemon uh makes that quite a cute one. But
yeah.
yes, carry on talking about stats.
So highest stat is HP. Its second highest stat is defense, which I'm surprised at given what it's been saying to us about, you
Mm.
know, barbs and all that kind of stuff. And it's in the NFE tier, which stands for not fully evolved. So it's still
I was a little voice in my head went, not fucking ever. Like no one uses this Pokemon.
well. I mean, if you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna do with this line, you're not gonna stick a this in over a Nida Queen, are you? But
No.
it says here, does it have a write up? Have they given it a write up? Well, that is very telling. I feel like this is the first one where they've. There we go. Strategies, no move sets available. So that gives you an idea of how overlooked this. That's the first one we've come across for that, I think, if I'm right. No move sets
Yeah.
available. So we were correct in saying that we think that this is going to be.
Watch them have a full fucking write up for Nidorino and me get mad like I did last time.
Right, Nidorina. I I feel like it's so unmemorable. Like you know, in terms of like the amount of like iconic moments that it's got. I did like some of the lore, and I like the fact that both of them have got rivalry, but I'm gonna struggle to give this more than a 3.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like, I think maybe I'd even go as low as a 2 because, like, I feel like it's so underdeveloped as a character. Like you don't get much of a Nidorina's personality, and I feel like all of the information that you get about it, from like the Pokedex entries and stuff is just like this is a stereotypical girl Pokemon, and girls like babies, and I'm like, it makes it really underwhelming for me. It's not what I'd like for Nidorina. I feel like it's been done really dirty.
Yeah,
And while last week that made me want to give the female Nidoran like an extra pity point, I feel like Nidorina's been so let down and it's become so washed away into the background that like I feel like the pity point is just patronizing, and I don't want to. It's been patronized enough,
yeah. Like
unfortunately.
I'm looking at Nidorina and I'm feeling like, okay, so with Nidorino, you went, okay, we're going from rabbit into like a rhino, and it's like that's fine. I do not mind that. Pretty cool, but it's like if you're gonna change it up that much, it's like and this is your first female, like, specific Pokemon, like, why couldn't you have gone down like the Black Widow? Okay,
Yeah, there could have been there are so many more things I could have done with it.
yeah, like
Um,
I do not
and I
mind.
think
I do not mind it being protective and stuff like that, but it could be like, okay,
yeah,
it's like it's protective because this is like the alien queen from Alien, like
yeah, and I do feel like further down the line, Pokemon did get better at choosing why it gendered Pokemon, like Vespiquen
yeah,
being only the female ones evolved because that matches up with the way bees only have a queen in the real world. So Vespiquen, the queen bee Pokemon, can only be female.
yeah,
I think that's quite cool. And tell you what, the amount of annoying assholes on the internet who are like, well, why doesn't Combi have a really tough, like, male worker bee evolution as well? And it's like, I don't give a fuck, man. Like, you've already got all the privilege in the world. Can we not have one fucking Pokemon?
uh,
Um, so there's that.
yeah,
But like, yeah, I feel like at this point they wanted to do something and they didn't think it through enough.
yeah. And in future, now we've done this podcast, whenever either of us see anything like that, it's like, why can't come be like be really badass? We need to send them Nidorina and be like, look, is it not more than even? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.